Recently, there's been renewed interest into the mysterious text that appears on one of Apple's icons, but I think we need to back up for a second. Apple has had a long history of sneaking in Easter eggs into its products, like the game Breakout, hidden in macOS 7.5 in an About box. Even in modern macOS, there are still nice homages to Apple's history, like the TextEdit RTF icon features the speech,
"Here's to the crazy ones,"
from Apple's Think Different campaign. Or Apple's calendar icon displays the date of July 17th, which is the day that Apple announced iCal on July 17th of 2002. Or venturing into the jocular, or petty depending on your opinion, like the infamous blue screen of death icon for Windows PCs when networking. Recently, there's been one making the rounds again, and this one is entirely a mystery. It is the Apple System Profiler icon. On the surface, this doesn't seem that interesting. It's a forcep or clamp around a chip, and if we view the icon at full resolution, we can see it has text, and if we rotate it, it contains the following. Rather than read the whole thing, I'll call it the RMNCE1 sequence. The obvious question then becomes, does this mean anything? Googling the string will get you next to nothing, other than people speculating on what it might mean. The most common speculation is this is once a chip that Apple used in its computers. However, searching these numbers or any fragments of it does not return any part numbers. There's a commonly cited thread on Mac Rumors where a guy speculates this might be a physical chip in the Mac Pro, which it really isn't. The confusion here, I'd say, is pretty understandable, as this icon has been used and repurposed by Apple, and also used by journalists when reporting on firmware updates for Apple products. Also, I can say with a very high degree of confidence that this isn't a chip found in the Mac Pro. I have a bit of a background in them. But this does segue into the next point, that this is not a modern BGA chip. The icon uses a through-hole design, likely an interpretation of an EEPROM or DIP, a dual inline package. What this means is this is designed to look like an older style chip, which might be a clue or it might not. The way people refer to DIP chips is by the total number of pins, which determines the name. This particular one would be a DIP 10, which is uncommon and leads me to believe this is just an interpretation of a DIP. My personal suspicion is that a DIP 40 EEPROM probably wouldn't make for the best graphic design. This graphic looks quite a bit like a BIOS replacement kit, which to my knowledge, Apple never shipped one of these. And if they did, please correct me in the comments. From the visual aspects, there's not much more we can derive. As previously mentioned, Googling down to the various numbers or even just the RM-NCE sequence won't return anything of use. I did try ChatGPT, but it just strung out a nice theory that it's a part number and a SKU, which is not exactly a revelation. As cool as it would have been to be able to solve this for this video, it just wasn't in the deck for me. This is where the story ends for the mystery icon. It very well could be meaningless, or it could be only meaningful to perhaps a select group of people. But there's the chance that there's something here and something that everyone else has overlooked. However, this isn't the only mystery that's hidden in Apple's icons. To this very day, the console icon still uses warning AY736, which to my knowledge never has had a full explanation. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of humor here as the internet is full of people thinking they're seeing an actual error message when they see this icon. Sometimes people think they've solved the mystery, but really haven't. Apple's old calculator app featured the number 1237421.75. The popular explanation is this is a date. 1237421.8 seconds would be May 23rd, and the year is 1975. According to this interpretation, May 23rd, 1975 is the date of the production of the first computer by Apple Inc. before it was an official company. Except there's a few things that just don't add up here. 1237418 seconds is not a clean division. That comes out to 143.22 days, or 5:16 a.m. on May 23rd. And I could not find any references to this date in Apple's history, not at least with cursory internet searches. While this is a pretty inventive guess, I just don't think this is correct. March 5th, 1975 is when Steve Wozniak first attended the Homebrew Computer Club. It is in the realm of possibility that 2 months later Steve built some sort of prototype, but I'm not believing it for the following reasons. One of Apple's very first prototypes went on sale as the Apple Computer 8, and it lists its creation as 1976. Also, the Computer History Museum lists the debut of the Apple I at the Homebrew Computer Club also in 1976. But the real nail in the coffin for this theory is Smithsonian Magazine. At 10 p.m. on June 29, 1975, Steve Wozniak was ready to test out his odd new computer. It didn't look like much, just a circuit board with 32 chips attached, connected to a video monitor and a keyboard. I really wish I could just read you the entire article, but I can do you a solid, and I've linked it in the description of this video. Back to that one article that's caused so much confusion, The Atlantic. I'm a pretty big fan, but I'm pretty sure you botched this one, even if you got Steve Wozniak to reply. Alright, I'm getting really off topic, so back to the discussion of icons. I'm not one to put much stock into numerology, but this really could be someone's actual birthday, including the time. While macOS's icons have gone through quite a few iterations, it's still beautiful that they've managed to hold on to some of these design flourishes. If you have any insights to the icons, I'm sure everyone would like to hear about it in the comments. Before I go, I want to thank SharGeek for sending me this really great battery, the Storm 2. It's by far the nicest battery I've ever owned for charging electronics. I'm not being paid to say this, and I'm under no obligation to plug their product, but it actually is pretty great. Personally, I'm pretty taken by the SharGeek Retro Charger. That's got some style. You'll see the Storm 2 in a future video, and I'll talk more about it. In macOS 10.10, Apple changed the icon, this time to Pi. The most current iteration of the calculator looks more like a Fisher-Price representation of one. Since design trends are cyclical, I would not be surprised if we saw a skeuomorphic representation of a calculator icon in the near future. If you happen to be looking for another video to watch, perhaps something about macOS icons, I made a video where I replaced the trash can icon with the Mac Pro 2013 because it looks like a trash can.